I love improvising. It's literally my favorite thing to do when I sit down at the piano. For me, it's meditative, relaxing, and it can be exhilarating at times. But I know that for many people out there, it can be one of the most frustrating and confusing things about learning music. And that makes me sad. Everyone who plays an instrument should feel free to mess around, improvise, and have fun. In this video, I'm going to tell you why you should improvise, and then at the end, I'm going to give you a bunch of exercises so that you can get started today. For now, let's define improvising as playing something that's not written out, making it up as you go along. It's more complicated than this, but I'll get to that later in the video. As humans, improvising is in our nature. Think about how we learn languages as kids. Do we sit around and practice reciting long monologues? Of course not. We'd have very little freedom for how we express ourselves with language. Instead, what we actually do is spend a period of time ingesting and listening, and then we slowly start to speak words and convey ideas and thoughts, until we become fluent enough to improvise language on the spot. But when it comes to music, we are taught by essentially reciting long monologues, aka learning songs. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a really good way to improve quickly. But if it's the only thing you do, you're going to be missing out on a whole world of musical exploration. What I'm trying to say is you should mess around more. Most of us were taught that being distracted is a bad thing, that your practice sessions should be hyper-focused and intense and super productive, that any time spent not working on something is time wasted. But that couldn't be further from the truth. When you improvise and mess around, your brain is able to digest information and make connections. It lets you see the bigger picture and experiment and explore things. It helps you find your own sound, and it lets you express music in the way that you want to. And that can be really powerful. That being said, I think there's a lot of people out there that want to improvise, but they feel like they're not ready, that it's not for them, or they're just not good at it. What holds people back? Why are so many musicians afraid of improvising? First of all, improvising is hard. It can be really hard. I spent a lot of years being dissatisfied with my improvising. I've gotten a lot better since then, but I think changing my mindset is what really made it enjoyable. Because inevitably, we're going to feel limited. We all have limitations. We've been brought up to be ashamed of them, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. The whole process of improvising is about getting to know your own limitations and then slowly expanding that boundary over time. So what are your main limitations when improvising? Why can't you just play whatever you want on a whim, evoking whatever feeling or emotion you desire in the moment? Well, in my opinion, there are 4 main things that limit us. And the first one is technique. You know, you might hear some crazy 30-second note run in your mind, but if you don't have the technique for it, you won't be able to play it. Your ear is your second limiter. And it's probably one of the things you'll be able to develop the most by improvising. A really popular quote in the jazz world is, "If you can't hear it, you can't play it." As we train our ears, we train our metaphysical connection to our instrument. It's kind of one of those never-ending goals, you know, honing our technique in our ears so that they all play in sync and in harmony. I don't know. Like, will I ever be able to achieve that? Has anyone ever achieved that? Truthfully, you'll never know. Knowledge is the third limiter. You know, music theory is extremely helpful when it comes to learning how to improvise. It helps you understand what your options are and can train your ears to hear certain things. It's really important, but the goal is to internalize this knowledge to the point that it's subconscious. Eventually, you shouldn't be thinking much at all when improvising. And the fourth limiter, and maybe one of the most important, is ego. You want to sound good. You want other people to think you sound good, and that you know what you're doing. This will influence what you play and how you improvise. It might stunt your musical growth if your ego is too active. You might not take as many risks. You'll find something that sounds good and then play it for the next 10 years. I'm pretty guilty of this. Anytime I find something that I like, I just stay with it for way too long and I just don't explore anything new for like months and months. And it's like, wait, I should probably like do something that's hard for me and not just play the same easy things over and over because I know they sound good. Alright, so I kind of want to break down improvising into two sections. We have free improvisation and structured improvisation. Now, free improvisation, you can kind of think about it as improvising with zero planned stuff. I can say this better. For free improvisation, let's say there are two levels. Level 1 is just messing around. You know, you're experimenting with stuff, you're doing a lot of trial and error. You're throwing your hands at the keyboard, essentially. And then level 2, which while you're messing around, sometimes you can reach this. It's when you're in a flow state. You know, you're kind of in the zone. Your hands are following your ears. You're playing deliberately, and it's almost as if you're a vessel for the music that's flowing through you. You're not worried about mistakes, and you're not thinking about what you're gonna do next. You just are. It's a pretty meditative state, and it feels awesome. And it starts with messing around. You'll never reach that flow state if you don't experiment and just throw yourself at your instrument and see what happens. And we have structured improvisation. We can think of this as a more restrained improvisation. You know, you're improvising, but there's a structure or a foundation that you're working off of. So like in jazz, you know, we solo over a jazz standard, a song that already has a melody and a chord progression. So our solo is influenced and guided by these things. You can reach a flow state with structured improvisation too. There's still a structure, but it's so subconscious within you that it's effortless to follow the structure, and you can bend and twist it in whatever way you want. I think if you want to actually get good at improvising, you need to do a bit of both. I tend to do a lot of free improvising when looking for ideas for a new song. It's a really helpful tool for composition and ideation, you know, and when you get into the flow, those free improvisations can be songs themselves. I just want to say that regardless of your skill or experience, you can improvise. Even if it's your first time playing your instrument, improvising is an innate quality that all humans have. Give a baby a piano and they will smack away at those keys. Kids are masters of free improvisation. They don't have as many preconceptions about what good music is or what they should be playing. So try to embody a bit of that carefree energy when you freely improvise. We always want to be better. We always want to improve. But free improvisation is a space where you can stop and enjoy where you are in the moment. Accepting your ability right now and removing self-judgment is the key to unlocking your improvisational skills. Structured improvisation, on the other hand, is where you can actually practice, break it down, and hone your skills. Alright, so for the rest of this video, I'm going to give you some exercises you can do for free and structured improvisation. So this free improv exercise is one of my favorites. It's the one note exercise. Basically, you sit down at your piano or whatever instrument you play, and you just start by playing one note. And let it sound out for a while. Start branching out. Keep it slow at first. Whenever you feel like you don't know what to do, just go back to that note. It's a good way to train your ear and train yourself to play by ear, because you'll find that when you slow things down and simplify it to just one note, you have more freedom and flexibility and more ideas for where you can go. Another exercise is playing wrong on purpose. Basically, just turn your brain off and let your hands go crazy. It's really helpful for unprogramming the idea that we should be playing things the right way. Another exercise I like is the one big ass chord exercise. Basically, you start from the bottom and start playing notes and just go all the way to the top. Every time you do it, maybe change some of the notes. It's just a fun way to fill your ears with some new sounds, and maybe you'll find something you like. Alright, let's get into some structured exercises. So the first one will be a beginner exercise. Your left hand will be playing a 4-bar chord progression. You'll be going from D minor down to A minor in first inversion, and then B flat major 7. Your left hand will be playing quarter notes, while your right hand will be improvising over just the first 5 notes of the D minor scale. As you get comfortable with your right hand, feel free to add more notes and branch out. If you can't play that B flat major 7 chord, just alternate between the first 2 chords. The next exercise adds a little bit more. We're going to be alternating from a B flat minor chord to a E flat minor chord, both in first inversion. It'll be kind of like a waltz in 3/4, and our right hand's going to be playing anything in the D flat major scale. Alright, the next exercise is more about playing chords, and it'll kind of get you improvising harmonically and not just melodically. The prerequisite to this exercise is being able to play all of your major and minor 7 chords in all 12 keys. And I'm choosing this voicing. You can do something else, but feel free to do the voicing I'm doing. As you do this exercise and start improvising with it, you'll notice that certain movements sound really good. Alright, here's a fun little Chord-Melody improvising technique for all skill levels. In your right hand, you're gonna play a C major triad. Play it with your second, third, and fifth finger, because the thumb is going to be playing the white key directly below it. Now we're gonna keep this hand position locked, and we're just going to move it around on the piano. If you want to make it a little more challenging and have the melody stand out more, have your left hand mirror the top note of your right hand. I think a lot of people underestimate how much time it takes to get better at this. You can see a lot of improvement in a short amount of time, but this is a lifelong journey. Improvising is about understanding how you like to express yourself on your instrument, and that's no easy feat. So really, don't be discouraged if you feel like you sound terrible at first, or that it's just not working. I spent years feeling like it wasn't working. But now I feel like I'm at a point where it's kind of working a bit, and that feels really good. But at the same time, I'm hyper aware of all the things that I could do better, and how, oh, I'm just doing this because of my pattern recognition mind. Improvising is like a big skill tree you could think of, and the more you go down certain paths, the more those paths will be kind of highlighted for you as oh, this is the thing that I like to do. A lot of improvising is about being able to do stuff in your sleep, so it's so easy that you can start messing around with things. And that's why it takes a long time, and why a lot of people give up before even getting to the fun part. I think it's important to have some kind of goals with your improvising, like what you want to sound like and what you want to be able to do. Because when I started, I just wanted to make cool solos like what I saw in jazz. But after a while, I got pretty jaded by that, and I realized I don't want to make music just so other people think I'm cool. That used to be my motivation. Play some cool sounding stuff, and then man, everyone's gonna be like, wow, this guy is awesome. But that's not really a strong motivator after a while. It's reliant on other people. It doesn't come from within. So yeah, I think a few years ago I kind of realized that, and I shifted my mindset to making music and being able to improvise things that I find value in and I find beautiful, and I don't care what other people think about it. It's a way for me to express myself. And I think you should try to view it like that too, especially when starting out, because it's gonna be hard.